Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating design journey, transforming the Lehigh Gap Story from a standard desktop virtual reality game into a fully immersive headset VR experience.
So think about it. How exactly do you drop a user into a virtual field trip without causing vertigo, scale distortion, or just a massive amount of cognitive overload? It's a huge design hurdle, and the research we're diving into today tackles it head-on.
Let's kick things off with Section 1, looking at the background of this challenge.
The absolute core of the problem is this. You're trying to balance the flat, easily paused, highly controlled constraints of a desktop screen against the dizzying, continuous motion of a 360-degree spatial headset environment. It's literal apples and oranges.
Moving right into Section 2, let's look at how the researchers handled the immersive elements.
To keep the interface from getting totally cluttered, the design team got clever and distributed the sensory feedback. So instead of giant pop-ups everywhere, you get subtle audio cues that hint at objects you can interact with, while tactile haptic vibrations in your controllers actually physically confirm your actions.
And because having a static menu block your face in VR is basically a nightmare, they engineered dynamic, floating UI solutions. There's an idle help panel that gently appears when you stop moving, and a subtitle follower that keeps narrative text comfortably right there in your field of view, no matter where you look.
Also, meet Brownie the Bird. By giving this guy dynamic 2D sprites with these really subtle, emotional bounce animations, the designers made sure the narrative stayed highly expressive. This was a real game changer for accessibility, especially for deaf or hard-of-hearing players.
Okay, Section 3 focuses on learning. How do we actually teach in this new spatial environment?
See, in headset VR, you literally can't just freeze the world so someone can read a tutorial. The workaround? Floating instructional panels that track horizontally with your head. This allows for completely user-paced learning without breaking the immersive spell of the environment.
To speed up how fast users get oriented, they injected emojis and color-coded text right into those instructional signs. It acts as an instant visual cue, highlighting exactly what you can interact with, like grabbable rocks or magnifying glasses, without over-explaining.
This brings us to Section 4, the method behind engineering these visual tutorials.
How do you teach someone VR mechanics while they're already inside VR? They did it through a smart sequence of 2D animations. First, they teach you full head rotation. Next, how to aim the controller's yellow line. And finally, just clicking the trigger. Simple, but super effective.
For example, take their rock grab animation. The team evolved it from rough, hand-drawn sketches in Procreate all the way into crisp, scalable vector graphics in Illustrator. That way, the art style stayed perfectly cohesive once they integrated it into the 3D Unity game engine.
But during their iterative user testing, a funny thing happened. Players simply weren't turning all the way around. A generic look-around instruction wasn't cutting it. So they quickly pivoted, adding a really bold looping red arrow literally commanding users to turn around. Sometimes you just have to be direct.
Let's move to Section 5, the findings and the overall impact of this redesign.
Ultimately, the results were fantastic. By linking abstract text instructions to concrete visual animations, they drastically reduced user hesitation. It resulted in a highly fluid onboarding process, proving for sure that strong visual reinforcement is absolutely vital for VR accessibility.
Wrapping up with Section 6, the conclusion, and where this framework goes next.
Looking ahead, the researchers really want to scale these specific VR transition principles. Just imagine this kind of accessible framework powering formal, cross-curricular education modules, or opening up entirely new cultural and historical virtual field trips. The potential is huge.
This study really nails a critical point. Careful, problem-focused interface redesign can absolutely preserve and honestly elevate accessible, narrative-driven learning when you're making that massive leap from flat screens to immersive 3D worlds.
So I'll leave you with a final thought to mull over. How might you adapt these immersive UI techniques to revolutionize your own digital spaces or training platforms? Thanks so much for tuning into this explainer, and keep exploring.